What's going on? Y'all know who it is. Share my screen with y'all real quick, and then I'm gonna have this program read a drafted document that will serve as a means, because everyone's means of reparations in a way, because the powers that be are not just gonna come outright and just give us reparations. So being that everything is merchant law, contract law, maritime law, so on and so forth, this could serve as a remedy for redress of grievances, for redress of, tort violations and whatnot, citing that you are indigenous or ab/original to this land, aka the true American. So listen carefully. Here's the affidavit. Turn this volume up a little bit so you guys can hear it.
Here's the revised affidavit with an added clause for access to the responsible party's power of attorney to enforce claims or liens for violations against your rights. Affidavit of sovereign private men and women. State of your state. County of your county. Affiant. Your name. Affiant's address. Your address. Date. Affidavit in support of sovereign rights and redress. I, your name, being duly sworn, depose and say. Introduction. I am a sovereign private man/woman, recognized as an aboriginal person, and I make this affidavit to assert my inherent rights and to seek redress for the systemic injustices endured by my people. Constitutional and legal foundations. The United States Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights, guarantees fundamental freedoms and protections to all individuals. The First Amendment ensures the free exercise of religion, while the Fourth and Fifth Amendments protect against unreasonable searches and seizures and guarantee due process of law. Case law in Yitwa v. Hopkins, 118 U.S. 356, 1886. The Supreme Court held that laws applied in a discriminatory manner violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Biblical maxims. Thou shalt not steal, Exodus 20 verse 15, underscores the moral imperative against the unlawful taking of property, including land and resources. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, Matthew 7 verse 12, emphasizes the principle of equity and fair treatment. Equity and redress. The desecration of sacred spaces and the forced indoctrination of indigenous peoples constitute grave injustices that demand redress. The principle of equity requires that these wrongs be acknowledged and remedied. The systemic emotional trauma inflicted upon my people is a violation of our inherent rights and dignity. Demand for peace and recognition. I demand recognition as an Aboriginal person and the restoration of my people's rights to our sacred lands and waters. I seek peace and justice, and I call upon the United States to honor its obligations under both domestic and international law. Liability of the United States. The United States, as a de facto government, is liable for the loss and desecration of sacred spaces and the emotional trauma inflicted upon my people. This liability arises from both historical actions and ongoing systemic injustices. Fee schedule for violations. For any violations of the rights asserted in this affidavit, the following fee schedule shall apply. Unlawful taking of property, $10,000 per incident. Desecration of sacred spaces, $25,000 per incident. Emotional trauma and distress, $5,000 per incident. Failure to recognize sovereign status, $15,000 per incident. Unlawful detention or coercion, $20,000 per incident. These fees are intended to provide a measure of redress and to deter future violations. Power of attorney clause. In the event of any violations of the rights asserted in this affidavit, I reserve the right to access the responsible party's power of attorney to enforce claims or liens. This includes the authority to take necessary legal actions to ensure compliance with the terms outlined in this affidavit and to seek appropriate remedies for any breaches. Conclusion. I affirm that the statements made in this affidavit are true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. I seek justice, equity, and the restoration of my people's rights. Signature. Your name. Notary public. Notary's name. Necessary parties to address. Federal government officials. President of the United States. Address: the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. 20500. Attorney General of the United States. Address: U.S. Department of Justice, 950 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. 20530-0001. State government officials. Governor of California. Address: Governor's Office, State Capitol, Sacramento, California, 95814. Attorney General of California. Address: California Department of Justice, 1300 I Street, Sacramento, California, 95814. Local government officials. County Assessor/Recorder. Address: Your County Assessor's Office address. County Treasurer. Address: Your County Treasurer's Office address. Judicial authorities. Chief Justice of the United States. Address: Supreme Court of the United States, 1 First Street Northeast, Washington, D.C. 20543. Presiding Judge of the local court. Address: Your local court's address. Indigenous rights organizations. National Congress of American Indians. Address: 1516 P Street, NW, Washington, D.C. 20005. American Indian Movement. Address: 1113 East Franklin Avenue, Suite 200, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55404. International bodies. United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. Address: United Nations Headquarters, 405 East 42nd Street, New York, New York, 10017. Legal representatives. Your attorney or legal counsel. Address: Your attorney's office address. Notary public. Ensure your affidavit is notarized by a licensed notary public to validate its authenticity. Feel free to customize this draft further to suit your specific needs.
All right, so as far as customization, let's go back up here. Now, as far as number 7, the fee schedule for violations, this of course can be adjusted, but I believe that I asked this to provide the fee schedule for violations per the United States Code. So for each category, each bullet point category, you can find these titles here. Like for instance, unlawful taking of property. You most likely can find it under the United States Code, and it'll have the penalties and fines, including imprisonment for some of these violations here. So just be mindful of that. As far as let's see, I have here because this is based on me being in California, though my birth state is another state. I will be addressing the governor of my birth state and then the attorney general of my respective birth state. So you will be doing the same for yours as well. I just wanted to add those little tidbits of information there so that you can adjust this necessarily for your purposes, and for redress of your personal grievances. So depending on where you are, depending on where you're going to send a couple bits of this information, like your state government officials and your local government officials here as number 2 and 3 respectively. So I just wanted to give this as a template or mode of direction, because I think it was like last week, California Assembly, I guess, or there's a movement for reparations in California, and it was shot down by the quote-unquote Black Caucus, which in my personal opinion are controlled opposition. So that's just my personal opinion. I mean, their job is to pretty much gatekeep, as we are all familiar with that term, gatekeep, to keep us at bay and to keep us from our land patent rights, which our ancestors held, and that is perpetual. So that means it never ends. So a lot of what we're dealing with is administrative law, which is a maritime and admiralty jurisdiction, law of the sea, dealing with the Cestui-Que-Vie Act. So a lot of it is based on the law of commerce. There's word magic. A code is a C-ode, which denotes musical. So it's all an enchantment that people are under and are not realizing what's going on when we step into these venues or deal with these commercial foreign entities. Because remember, colonization is about pretty much conquest. You had the Spanish conquistadors, and you had the 13 original colonies. anytime you deal with a colony, there can be nothing civil about a colonizer. So just remember that. So with that, I say peace, love, and light to you. Acknowledgement and empowerment. Know thyself. In all thy getting, get understanding. Pursuant to King Solomon in the King James Version. And also, there's prior versions of the Bible. We got the Ethiopian Bible as well. And we have the Geneva Bible, which is closer to the truth. So I suggest we read and we do our due diligence, right? And we study to show ourselves approved. So this has been a small message that I hope is received well and shared widely and broadly. In order to see a change, we have to be the change that we want to see. And we have to do things that we've never done before and step out on faith and in strength and not having the spirit of fear, because fear controls people. Let's not be controlled any longer by nefarious entities and works of art and be tricked and be further confused, because the Most High is not the author of confusion. So shout out to all of our elders who are spitting the 100% truth, that are sharing the light and giving a warning to our people, because we are in those times. All right, so with that in mind, I say again, peace, love, and light.